Are you over concerned with the opinion of others? Do you often find that you are disturbed when people are displeased with you, or you can't make a decision unless it's validated by somebody else, or somebody is criticizing you for an opinion that you have or an action that you've taken, and it just really disturbs you so very much that you can't sleep at night. You're constantly trying to think of ways to get back in that person's good favor. Are you just overly consumed with the opinion of others? Well, believe it or not, most people are concerned with putting our best foot forth, right? I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad thing to do. We want to put our best foot forth. And I can remember telling my children that, you know, try to make a good impression when you go in there. Do all of the things that a polite person would do. But I'm always knowing for them and for myself and for you too, that we can't please all of the people all of the time. But even knowing that, people get so disturbed when they realize that people are upset with them. And oftentimes you'll find people can't make an honest appearance in the world because they're super concerned if they were to express themselves honestly, they'd be rejected. They'd end up alone, alienated. How can we live an authentic life if that's the position that we take? How can we live in our truth if we're so super sensitive, almost paralyzed by the opinions of others? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's our discussion. That's our topic today on Everyday Peace with Dr. Drayvon James. When we're over concerned with the opinions of others. And let me just say that I get it. When you're an employee, you want your boss to like the quality of your work. You want your colleagues to appreciate the offering that you bring. As a spouse, you want your significant other to be pleased with you, right? In all ways, right? Pleased with your conversation, your appearance, your performance. You just want to be pleasing. You want to be pleasing. There's nothing wrong with that. We are designed to interact with other people. We are designed to do that. That is part of the human experience. But we don't want it to get to the place where we are so concerned with how someone else feels about us till we are just plagued and we really don't know who we are because we are constantly trying to change to fit the needs of that person or fit the needs of that person. Not and I mean beyond accommodating. I mean just really changing, and we're so afraid of rejection. We've got to move beyond that because guess what? What you have to offer the world, your community and your family, is so very unique. And if you don't express you at your highest form in that moment, because you're evolving, your highest form a month from today will be a, probably a different presentation than what it is today. But in this moment, you express in your highest self. If you deprive the world, your community, your family of that, that's a shame. That's not something that we want. We need what you have to offer. We need that. So we'll be missing something. So how do we get beyond this? How do we get beyond this? First, we have to become aware of it. Become aware of how sensitive we are to someone's maybe a slight nod of disapproval, or they give you the eye, right? We call it the stink eye, right? They give you the eye, or they pull back because of, become aware of how that makes you feel without judgment. Just become aware of how that makes you feel. Once you become aware of it, then you can start to deal with it in a soft and gentle way. Because knowing that your awareness of that look, of that sense of tone, of that whatever it was that you felt from that person's energy that says, hey, I don't agree with you. Hey, I don't like what you just said, or I don't like the way you behaved, or I feel disappointed by what you've done. when we become aware of that, just gentle awareness without judging, without making an explanation or an excuse for our behavior, just aware that it appears, well, I'll say it differently. I feel that this person disapproves of me because that awareness right there is validating. You're entitled to your feelings. You're entitled to be who you are. Just simply become aware. And this is what I want to tell you today. That awareness of that disapproving, or that the fact that, and the word that I'm looking for is that I feel hurt because you don't accept me. But we're not that honest with ourselves, are we? We don't say that because that vulnerability scares us. What we say is that, oh, they don't like me. Right? But how does that make me feel? It makes me feel hurt. I feel alienated. I don't like to feel lonely. I don't like to feel left out. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that in the everyday peace way of wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken, totality? First, becoming aware of it. Second, knowing this, that I have this feeling with this interaction for a reason. And that reason is the universal reason. I'm going to give you this reason a lot in our time together. Remember it, put it in your memory, put it in your toolbox so that every time something comes up, you can pull this out and know this is the reason that I'm having this challenging moment. And that reason is this. Whatever this is has shown up for one reason, and that is to bow down and serve you as you deliberately and consciously cultivate and build the life of your dreams, your next level of greatness. So we got this feeling of, I feel hurt, I feel sad, I feel unsafe because I don't think this person approves of something I said or did or didn't live up to their expectation. What do? I'm aware of it. I've acknowledged it. Now we need to validate ourselves, because the universe is saying that I need you to know that you are still worthy even in this moment. You're still worthy in this moment. So what's so very important? How do you get past this? How do you get past this? How do you still sleep at night knowing that your boss is disappointed in your performance, but that you did your very best? How do you still sleep at night knowing that your children are disappointed, your best friend is disappointed, that you let your mom down, your dad down, your husband or your wife, your significant other? When you've done your best, or even still, how do you sleep at night? How do you rest? How do you be okay with you when you've made this big mistake that everyone's glaring at? And I think it was Steve Harvey that was announcing Miss America, and he gave the wrong name. You guys remember that? And I love how he just embraced that. Well, I messed that up. But how do we get to that point? How do we get to that point? Because you know how we are. We think that this is the mistake that's going to take us down, that we're never going to be able to come back from this. Well, I'm going to give you some tools today. And it really has to do with your self-talk. So here we go. First, you have to say to yourself out loud, preferably. I like if you do this in the mirror. In the mirror. And I get a lot of this mirror work from Louise Hay. She has a book out that she wrote many years ago called Mirror Work. And of course, Louise Hay is no longer with us, but her wonderful work and her writings are. And some of these things that I do are adaptations from many learnings throughout my life. But this particular one is looking in the mirror and talking to ourselves, especially before we go to bed and before we go out in our day. And even in the midst of and in the middle of this disappointing feeling, whatever it is that grips you, you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not accepted. Find your way to some private space where you can get in the mirror and you can look directly in your eye, which can be a bit challenging sometimes. So I encourage you to try to look in your right eye. Look in the mirror, look in your right eye. Look at that pupil. Really look at it. Look at the self that's looking at the world. That's what we do when we look in the mirror. We look at the self that's looking at the world. And we start here, accepting the self. That quiets the ego down. When you just start to accept you with a simple phrase, I accept myself just the way I am. Wouldn't it be lovely if the whole world accepted you just the way you are right now? It'd give you room to improve, right? But just love and accept you just the way that you are right now. It all starts with you doing that. You do that first. You are the teacher. You model for the whole world how to treat you. So you accept yourself just the way you are. So in the midst of that, whatever that moment is, you find a mirror, you look in your right eye in that mirror, and you say, I accept me. I accept me today, just the way I am today. Second statement, I love me just the way I am today. I love me. Again, who are you talking to? You're talking to the self that looks out at the world. That's why it's so important that you look in your eye. And if, I don't want to exclude anybody. We're inclusive, right? If for some reason you can't look in your right eye, you look in the left eye. It is very challenging, however, to look in both eyes at one time for a lot of people. So that's why I encourage you to look in one or the other and focus, focus, focus. It doesn't take long. There'll be a temptation at first to look away, right? The ego doesn't want you to, doesn't want you to look at it straight on, right? Afraid of what you'll find there. But all you'll find there is love if you'll look. If you'll put it there, that's what you'll find there. I accept me just the way I am today. I love me just the way I am today. And yes, I get it. Your boss may be screaming at you. Your children may be screaming at you. Your in-laws may be screaming at you. Your spouse or significant other may be disappointed with you. It's important that in that moment, you reaffirm that you love you today just the way you are. That your love for you is not predicated on your behavior. The truth is, your behavior is an extension of how much you love yourself. It is. We'll talk about that. It's so magical even how this happens. So this is so important that you do this. Last statement, 3 statements. Last statement, I honor me. I honor me in this moment, right now, here, today. Right now, I honor me. And if there needs to be forgiveness, because we're not perfect, there is no perfection in this game. There's just people moving in the direction of perfection. The Bible says that perfection is the unattainable goal, but yet we strive for it anyway, because moving in that direction, there's so many treasures and pearls and gold and silver on that pathway that we get to pick up and make our own. That's why we want to stay on that path. But we're not going to burden ourselves with obtaining it because we know that it's unobtainable. So if there's something to forgive, forgive yourself in that moment. So that's the 4th one. I forgive me. That's it. I accept myself right now, today, just the way that I am. I love myself right now, today, just the way that I am. I honor myself right now, today, just the way that I am. And if I need to forgive myself, I forgive myself right now, today, just the way that I am. You can't forgive anyone else. You can't accept anyone else. You can't love anyone else. You can't honor anyone else from a place of truth, authentic, organic truth, until you do these things for yourself. You're worth it, and you can do it. I am Dr. Drayvon James. This is Everyday Peace with Dr. Drayvon James. I absolutely love you, and I thank you for showing up today as an everyday peacemaker.